My desk was moved to a corner near the supply closet, away from my team. My project access was restricted to view-only status. In our shared digital workspace, my comments went ignored. "It's nothing personal," Trent assured me during my performance review. "We're shifting priorities toward digital natives who understand modern users." I nodded calmly. I understand completely. At home, I continued refining my efficiency system independently. The core algorithms were mine, developed years earlier on my personal time with documentation proving ownership. What the company didn't realize was that this system could reduce operational costs by 32%, while increasing productivity by nearly 40%. 3 days after being labeled a dinosaur, I prepared for the company's 30th anniversary celebration. Instead of the expected subdued outfit, I chose a striking cobalt dress I'd purchased years ago for a special occasion but never worn. I styled my silver hair in an elegant updo rather than my usual practical bun. When I arrived at the venue, an art gallery downtown, conversations paused briefly as colleagues did double takes. Ren approached first. "Leora, you look amazing." "Thank you," I replied. "Special occasions call for special efforts." Across the room, Trent was holding court with board members, gesturing animatedly as he described his vision for the company's future. He hadn't noticed my arrival. Ambrose spotted me from across the room and walked over, arms outstretched. Though in his 70s now, he still possessed the energy that had built our company from nothing. "There she is," he announced, embracing me warmly, "my secret weapon all these years." Trent glanced over, his expression shifting from confusion to professional interest upon seeing me with the founder. Ambrose took my arm. "Come say hello to everyone. Most of these new board members have never met the person who saved this company." As we approached Trent's group, Ambrose raised his voice slightly. "Everyone knows my friend Leora, of course, without whom none of us would be standing here today." Trent's expression remained polite but puzzled. "Trent," Ambrose continued, "you've been working with Leora, right? Has she told you her story?" "We've collaborated on several projects," Trent replied smoothly, though we'd done nothing of the sort. "Wonderful," Ambrose beamed. "Then you know you're working with the person who saved this company and still owns 28% of it." Trent's champagne glass tilted, liquid sloshing onto his sleeve. His face went pale as he connected the dots. 28%, he repeated, dabbing his cuff with a napkin. "Leora could have been CEO if she wanted." Ambrose continued cheerfully, oblivious to Trent's discomfort. "Instead, she keeps building brilliant systems. Speaking of which, how's that efficiency project coming along? The board's eager to see it." Before Trent could answer, I smiled. "Actually, I've been developing some new approaches I'd like to share with everyone, perhaps at tomorrow's executive meeting." Ambrose clapped his hands. "Perfect, Trent. Make sure that's on the agenda first thing." As the evening continued, I felt Trent's eyes following me. He made several attempts to speak privately with me, but I remained engaged with other colleagues, many surprised to learn about my ownership stake. Are you still with me? Because what happens next isn't just about revealing my ownership. That was merely the beginning. The real story is how one moment of disrespect led to a complete transformation that no one saw coming. The next morning, I arrived early to prepare for the executive meeting. The boardroom gradually filled with curious faces. Some I'd known for decades, others hired under Trent's new vision. Ambrose sat at the head of the table with Trent positioned strategically nearby. When Trent spotted me setting up my presentation, he approached with an overly warm smile. "Leora, I want to apologize for any misunderstandings. Had I known about your history with the company—" "No apologies necessary," I interrupted gently. "Today isn't about the past." Ambrose called the meeting to order. "Leora has something important to share that could transform our operations. Everyone give her your full attention." I connected my laptop to the projector and stood. For the past year, I've been developing an efficiency system that will revolutionize how we work, I began. It reduces redundancies, streamlines workflow, and increases productivity while decreasing burnout. I clicked through slides showing impressive metrics from private testing. The room's energy shifted as executives leaned forward, recognizing the potential impact. "This looks remarkable," the CFO commented. "When can we implement it?" "That's what I want to discuss," I replied. "This system isn't company property. I developed the core concepts years ago on my own time, with extensive documentation proving ownership." Confusion rippled through the room. Trent's expression hardened as he realized where this was heading. "I'm offering to license this system to the company," I continued. "Not give it. The annual savings will exceed $20 million based on conservative estimates." "Name your price," the CFO said immediately. "My terms aren't financial," I replied, meeting Trent's gaze. "I want implementation oversight by a new age diversity committee with binding authority over hiring and promotion practices. I want mandatory respect in workplace training for all employees, especially management. And I want a mentorship program pairing experienced workers with new hires, ensuring knowledge transfer in both directions." The boardroom erupted in murmurs. Ambrose smiled knowingly. "Leora isn't asking for money," he translated for the newer executives. "She's asking for cultural change." "This is highly unusual," Trent interjected. "Creating new power structures based on a personal grievance seems—" "Is there a personal grievance?" Ambrose interrupted, his tone still pleasant but eyes sharp. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Trent. "I think what Trent means," I said carefully, "is that every organization must evolve. Sometimes that means embracing new talent. Other times it means valuing institutional knowledge. The best companies do both." I clicked to my final slide, a detailed implementation plan that included Trent as the executive sponsor reporting to the diversity committee. "This gives everyone what they need," I explained. "The company gets a revolutionary system. Newer employees gain wisdom from experienced mentors. Seasoned workers contribute meaningfully while learning emerging techniques. And our management team demonstrates true leadership by building bridges rather than divisions." Ambrose studied the room, gauging reactions. "I believe we need a few minutes to discuss this proposal." "Of course," I replied, gathering my materials. I waited outside. The hallway felt unnaturally quiet as I sat on a bench, watching the minute hands circle the antique clock mounted on the wall. 23 minutes passed before the boardroom door opened. Ambrose emerged first, his expression carefully neutral. "We'd like you to come back in," he said. Inside, the executives had rearranged themselves. Trent now sat at the far end of the table, his posture rigid, a yellow legal pad in front of him covered with furious scribbles. "We've discussed your proposal," the CFO began. "While unconventional, we recognize the tremendous value in both your efficiency system and your suggested structural changes." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "However," he continued, "we have some amendments." For the next hour, we negotiated. They accepted the Age Diversity Committee, but requested equal representation across age groups. They embraced the mentorship program, but wanted quantifiable metrics to measure its success. They agreed to respect in workplace training, but expanded it to include all forms of diversity. Through it all, Trent remained silent, making occasional notes, but offering no objections. When we finally reached agreement, Ambrose stood. "I believe we have a framework everyone can support. Leora, are you satisfied with these terms?" "I am," I confirmed. With one addition, I turned toward Trent. "I want Mr. Audley to chair the implementation team, reporting directly to the Diversity Committee." The request sent another ripple of murmurs through the room. I was essentially asking for the man who had tried to push me out to report to the very people he had marginalized. Trent looked up from his notepad, his expression unreadable. "May I ask why?" "Because you excel at driving change," I replied honestly. Your ability to transform systems is exactly what we need, just applied with greater wisdom and inclusivity. He studied me for a long moment, searching for mockery or malice. Finding none, he nodded once. I accept. 2 days later, the Diversity Committee held its first meeting. The company announced 5 members: myself, Trent, Ren, representing younger employees, Ambrose for the board, and Indigo from Human Resources. Our charter, displayed prominently on the company intranet, outlined our mission to create a workplace that valued both innovation and experience. Our first task was addressing the systematic push-out of older workers. We reviewed terminations from the past 6 months, identified patterns of age discrimination, and developed a remediation plan. We should offer reinstatement to those wrongfully terminated, Ren suggested during our second meeting. I agree, I added. Trent, who had remained mostly quiet during our initial discussions, cleared his throat. That could create significant financial liability. Less than the lawsuit brewing among former employees, I countered. Besides, my efficiency system will more than offset the costs. He conceded with a nod. Valid point. Over the following weeks, I watched Trent navigate his new role with surprising adaptability. Initially stiff and defensive in committee meetings, he gradually began engaging substantively with our initiatives. During one particularly productive session, he presented research on the business benefits of age-diverse teams. Studies consistently show that mixed-age teams outperform homogeneous groups in problem-solving and innovation, he explained, projecting data charts on the conference room wall. They bring complementary skills and perspectives. Interesting, I commented. What changed your mind about dinosaurs? The room tensed at my direct reference to his earlier insult. Trent met my gaze without flinching. Data, he replied simply. I was operating on assumptions rather than evidence. That was unprofessional. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was movement. Progress comes in small steps. The mentorship program launched next, pairing experienced employees with newer team members. The structure ensured bidirectional learning. Veterans shared institutional knowledge and industry wisdom, while younger workers offered fresh perspectives and technical insights. Ren and I formed one such pair. During our first official mentoring session, she brought her laptop to my newly restored desk in the main work area. I've been struggling with the efficiency system you started, she admitted. The underlying architecture is more complex than anything I've worked with. Show me where you're stuck, I offered. For the next hour, we worked through the code together. I explained the reasoning behind certain structural choices while she suggested more elegant approaches to several functions. By session's end, we'd created something better than either of us could have developed alone. This is actually working, she said, sounding surprised. The mentorship program? Yes and no, she gestured between us. This collaboration across experience levels. I always thought older workers would be stuck in their ways. Some are, I acknowledged. Just like some young workers think they know everything. Both mindsets limit growth. She nodded thoughtfully. Did you ever feel that way? Like you knew everything? Until I was about 35, I laughed. Then I realized how much I still had to learn. That's when my real education began. The company atmosphere transformed gradually over the following months. The initial awkwardness of forced collaboration gave way to genuine appreciation for diverse perspectives. Teams reorganized to include age ranges rather than clustering by generation. Productivity metrics, tracked meticulously through my efficiency system, showed steady improvement. Not everyone embraced the changes. 2 executives resigned rather than adapt to the new culture. Several younger employees chafed under the mentorship requirements, viewing them as obstacles to advancement. We adjusted, refined, and persisted. Throughout this transformation, I watched Trent with particular interest. His evolution proved most surprising. The arrogant manager who had dismissed older workers now advocated passionately for inclusive practices. During one implementation meeting, he confronted a project lead who suggested sidelining an older programmer. That's exactly the thinking we're working to eliminate, Trent said firmly. Experience and innovation aren't mutually exclusive. After the meeting, I caught up with him in the hallway. That was unexpected. He slowed his pace to match mine. Which part? Your defense of inclusive teaming. It seems genuine. He considered this as we walked. When you've been publicly wrong about something fundamental, you have two choices: double down on the mistake or learn from it. I'm choosing to learn. That takes courage, I acknowledged. Not as much as you might think, he replied. The data supporting diverse teams is overwhelming. Following evidence isn't courage, it's common sense. 6 months after being labeled a dinosaur, I stood before the entire company at our quarterly all-hands meeting. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation as I prepared to present the results of our organizational transformation. When we began this journey, many viewed it as a correction of past wrongs. Others saw it as unnecessary disruption. Today I'm sharing numbers that speak for themselves. The screen behind me displayed our performance metrics. Productivity up 37%, employee satisfaction increased by 23%, turnover reduced by 41%, and innovation measured by new patents and product improvements up by an astonishing 52%. These results weren't achieved by favoring one group over another, I continued. They came from recognizing that wisdom and fresh perspective both have value, that institutional memory and new approaches can coexist, and that respect isn't just morally right, it's good business. From my vantage point on stage, I could see Trent in the front row, nodding along. Beside him sat Ren, who had recently been promoted to team lead while continuing to learn from her mentor. Ambrose watched from the back, his expression proud but unsurprised. We've proven that age diversity isn't about political correctness or avoiding lawsuits, I concluded. It's about building stronger, more resilient, more innovative teams, and we're just getting started. The applause was gratifying, but the real reward came after the presentation, when employees from across age groups approached me with stories of how the new culture had improved their work lives. A programmer in her 50s described finally feeling valued again. A recent graduate shared how his mentor had helped navigate a complex client situation. A mid-career designer explained how collaboration with both younger and older colleagues had transformed her creative process. Later that afternoon, Trent knocked on my office door, carrying a folder and looking uncharacteristically hesitant. I wanted to discuss something before our next committee meeting, he began, sitting across from me. Go ahead. I've been researching best practices for long-term sustainability of diversity initiatives. He opened the folder, revealing extensive notes. The data suggests that without ongoing structural support, organizations typically revert to previous patterns within 18 to 36 months. I raised an eyebrow. You're worried our changes won't stick. I'm concerned about making them permanent, he corrected, which is why I've developed this proposal. He handed me a document outlining a comprehensive sustainability plan, quarterly culture audits, succession planning with diverse candidate slates, compensation tied to inclusivity metrics, and ongoing education requirements. This is thorough, I acknowledged, scanning the detailed implementation timelines. It needs to be, he replied. Cultural change is fragile without structural reinforcement. I studied him over the top of the document. You've come a long way from dinosaurs, haven't you? A flash of discomfort crossed his face. I said a lot of things I regret, but never apologized directly, I noted. He set down his pen. You're right, I haven't. Leora, I apologize for my disrespectful and discriminatory behavior. It was unprofessional, harmful, and completely contrary to effective leadership. I'm sorry. The words hung between us, simple, direct, and long overdue. Apology accepted, I replied, though your actions these past months have spoken louder than these words. He nodded, seeming relieved. There's something else, he hesitated, then continued. I've been offered a position with another company. Better title, higher salary, impressive equity package. Congratulations, I said, surprised. When do you leave? That's what I wanted to discuss. I'm declining the offer. Why? It sounds like a significant opportunity. It is, he agreed. But they want me for what they called my aggressive approach to modernization. They specifically mentioned admiring how I refreshed the workforce here before recent changes. Understanding dawned. They want the old Trent. Exactly. And that person no longer exists. He closed his folder. I've learned more here in 6 months than in my entire previous career. I'd rather build on that growth than return to outdated thinking, even for twice the money. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. The man who had once dismissed experienced workers as dinosaurs now viewed his former self as outdated. Well then, I said, we should discuss your role in the sustainability plan. If you're staying, I think you should lead it. His eyebrows rose. You'd trust me with that? 6 months ago? No. Today? Absolutely. I handed back his proposal. Present this at the next board meeting. I'll support it fully. 1 year to the day after being called a dinosaur in that fateful department meeting, I sat in the same conference room surrounded by a very different company. The diversity committee had evolved into a permanent governance body with rotating membership. The mentorship program had expanded to include cross-departmental pairings. My efficiency system had been fully implemented with ongoing improvements suggested by collaborating teams spanning multiple generations. Trent now served as Chief People Officer, overseeing culture and talent development with a focus on inclusive practices. Ren had been promoted to lead the technical implementation of my system, while I continued developing new solutions that combine decades of experience with emerging technologies. As I looked around the table during our strategy session, I saw what true revenge looked like. Not humiliation, termination, or public shaming, but transformation. The man who had tried to push me out now championed the very values he once dismissed. The company that had allowed discrimination now led its industry in inclusive practices. The culture that once devalued experience now recognized it as essential to innovation. Sometimes the most powerful response to disrespect isn't retaliation, but reformation. Not destroying your opponent, but transforming them into an ally. Not winning a battle, but changing the entire landscape of the war. Ambrose joined me for lunch in the company garden that afternoon, a space created as part of our workplace wellness initiative. Gray-haired employees mentored younger colleagues on benches, while recent graduates showed veterans new applications on their tablets. I never doubted you'd make an impact, Ambrose said, watching the interactions around us. But even I didn't expect this level of transformation. Neither did I admitted. I just wanted to stop the discrimination. You did far more, he gestured toward the collaborative groups throughout the garden. You created something sustainable, something that will outlast both of us. As the sun warmed my face, I realized he was right. My revenge hadn't been exposing my ownership, embarrassing Trent, or even implementing my efficiency system. It had been demonstrating that respect for experience isn't just morally right, it's essential for innovation. That wisdom and fresh perspectives both matter. That true power comes not from position or title, but from creating systems that ensure every voice contributes to success. Now I look to you watching this story. Have you ever faced discrimination because of your age? Whether for being too young or too old, have you witnessed it happening to others? Share your experience in the comments below. How did you respond? And what would you do differently now? If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. There's incredible power in sharing these experiences, not just for validation, but for developing strategies that transform workplaces for everyone. Because when we create systems that value all perspectives, everyone benefits. That's not just revenge, it's revolution.